Unshelling Medicine Podcast. Healthcare in the language we understand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our episode today. I have the pleasure of having Sid Mohasseb. Sid wants to be introduced as a human being first and foremost, but is also a professor, a serial entrepreneur. And as a title that I'm curious to really delve into, Sid told me people refer to me as the entrepreneur philosopher. So as an entrepreneur myself, and professor to professor, you're my colleague as well. I'd like to delve into that a little deeper in a conversation later on. But Sid, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I am excellent. Now that I'm with you, I'll get better.
Great. I'm excited for our conversation. We've had a few rescheduling, but we're here today.
We're here today.
We are here today. So, Sid, let's talk about entrepreneurship. And there's something fun I say a lot, that it takes a special kind of crazy to embark on the journey of entrepreneurship, because the ups and downs, the hills and valleys is enough to drive anybody crazy. So you're not just an entrepreneur, you're a serial entrepreneur and also an investor. What was the bug that started this whole journey for you?
I'm going to probably shock you and your audience with a different definition.
Okay.
So, in the 1700s, I'm going back almost 300 years, the word entrepreneur was created. And here's what the meaning is. It's a French guy who came up with it, an economist. I think his name was Jean-Paul Say. And here's how he defined an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who has something, who wishes to exchange that with something of higher value. And then they added the element of risk. That means someone who has something, who wishes to exchange it for something of higher value, knowing that there is risk. That means I've got something. I want to exchange that with something that has a higher value, but I may not be able to. There's a risk of not happening. Now, notice the definition. This is not about money at all. I have something and there's no definition of what you have. You could have product, you could have a service, you could have an idea, you could have a talent, you be a musician, be a basketball player, and you could have your time. And you exchange that with something of higher value. And there is no definition of what higher value is. You define what higher value is. You want it to be money? Okay. You want it to be time to play golf? Okay. You want 3 mansions and a boat? Okay. You want time to spend with family more often? Okay. You define. You want fame? You want fortune? Okay. You define what you have and you define what you like to exchange it with. And what is in between is this idea of risk. Okay. So let's take that definition, and I didn't make this up. This is the original definition of an entrepreneur. It has been bastardized, changed over time to this thing that it's about money and it's craziness and it's you. It's none of that. It's how it's been bamboozled or shifted or changed over time. So if you take that definition, I would propose to you that every student, and you're a professor, you have all these students coming through you, their parents may pay for it, they may take a loan, they stay up at night, they study hard, and they provide what they have, which is either their money, their parents' money, or getting the grant or a loan or something. They provide something, they have their money, and they provide their time and efforts and intelligence and efforts to essentially study for the courses. And what do they expect in return? They expect a degree. So they're exchanging what they have with something they think is of higher value, an education, a degree. And the problem is that higher value is not guaranteed. The fact that they get a degree doesn't make them rich. Something after they get that they've got to do. So there is a risk. Now, the risk is not as huge as, let's say, starting a business, but there is a risk. So they have something, they exchange it with something of higher value, and there is risk. Every student is practicing entrepreneurship.
That is profound.
So now that's why they call me the philosopher.
It's profound because, dissecting it in that sense really does bring everything to focus. The risk in when we're talking about students, could be failing a course,
Yeah.
repeating, right? That is a risk. That is an established risk with pursuing education, higher education at that. It can lead to, in the nursing side of things, some students get academically withdrawn because of failing a certain amount of courses. And if you actually apply that to the business world, where failure, which in this case is uh, an attempt to try again or reconstitute yourself and do something different. Most students, after failing a course, maybe one semester, kind of like buckle up and get themselves together and find another way to study. So the way that you put it is so beautiful. Thank you for that.
So let's now unfold that a little bit based on the example that you give.
Right.
So how could they minimize the risk? Studying, that means knowledge, gaining knowledge, hard work, understanding the dynamics that the reality is of the world. The fact that they're smart doesn't necessarily means they get not going out drinking the night before. How's that?
Right.
Right? They make choices. So in this element of risk, this is also say entrepreneurs are risk takers. No, entrepreneurs are risk navigators. The level of risk is based on your awareness of your emotions, of your surroundings, of true abilities that you have, of true conditions that you have, of the realities of the world. If I expect I'm 5'3", if I expect to be competing with LeBron James on a basketball court, I'm just a fool. I'm not aware of the realities of my height and the conditions, and I haven't practiced. I'm 60 some years old. That is false hope. So what happens is that level of risk, entrepreneurs are now what? And we all do this. We all get in our car and drive. There is a risk we get into an accident. If we drive fast, if we are reckless, we are intentionally increasing the risk. So risk and entrepreneurs, the risk takers are in Las Vegas. They're gamblers in life. Okay? Entrepreneurs, good entrepreneurs and better entrepreneurs they have the ability to navigate risk. How did you navigate risk? By gaining knowledge, by
Right.
gaining awareness. That's entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. So let's pivot to the investment side of things. Knowing that you're also an investor, what is that journey like navigating the risk of investing in either a person or a company? And through my journey, my founder's journey, I've come to realize that most investors, whether VCs, angels, they invest in the founder, not necessarily the company itself, because there's certain attribute that they're looking for in a founder. So can you take us through that journey of an investor potentially investing in a founder or in a
Of course.
company?
Of course. So, first of all, what I do as an angel investor is probably one of the riskiest things in terms of investing because 1 out of 10 companies succeed if one of the portfolios, if you pick them right and if you have the right entrepreneur and the right idea and so forth. And it's not guaranteed. There's no assets to back it up. There's no, building something from scratch, particularly at the stage that it's very risky. How do you minimize that risk is the question. I was, for a time, I had a venture capital firm. And for a while, I was the president of Tech Coast Angels, which is the largest angel investment entity in the United States. I probably, between the two of them, I would see maybe 3,000 pitches a year.
Mm,
So I have seen a lot of pitches. I've seen a lot of PowerPoints. And out of those 3,000, I would probably talk to maybe 10% of them
mm,
physically, having conversations. So I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs. The key element that you will see, and you can talk to many investors, and I'm sure if they've seen enough volume, if they're professional investors, it's not somebody who has a real estate investment and also makes an investment in this, or as a doctor or something that's not their main business. I told you I've seen tens of thousands and I've made investments in many. I have not seen a single business plan that went to exit. That means it was successful based on the original business plan. I've not seen one, but maybe others have. I haven't. And this is a pretty good sample size. It's a sample of one in tens of thousands because life changes, because the environment change, people change, relevance changes, because technology changes, because we have false assumptions. There's lots and lots of things that could go wrong. So from an investor, you mentioned that they look at the entrepreneur. The reason is they want to see, is that entrepreneur ready, able, capable to be flexible, agile, resilient, to be able to not fall in love with the idea that they had, but fall in love with creating some value. The other is investors, most investors, I can't say all, don't invest in somebody who's looking to make money. Because as I said, they realize that entrepreneurship, you may think as an entrepreneur, wouldn't it be great if I have a lot of money? But that's not a business. At 4 o'clock in the morning, when the customers are unhappy or your technology isn't working or things are going haywire, money is not a good motivator. Your passion for loving what you do, for creating value, for exchanging something for something better, that is what drives you at 4 o'clock in the morning. And guess what? As an investor, I'm not there at 4 o'clock in the morning to give you a pep talk. You're on your own and you have to motivate others who are facing your team, who are facing this thing. And again, I would go with investors that have actually run businesses. There is a reason. They feel your pain. They have been in a position of not being able to meet payroll. They have been in a position of things not working. They have been in a position to work with difficult employees. They have been in a position to difficult customers. They have been in all of those positions. So my first advice is if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for money, find someone who's gone through this journey. Don't don't take them on because they have money. Their money has less value than their experience and their empathy for where you are and providing you at those moments the right kind of value. That is why a lot of investors go to this coachability. They say the entrepreneur has to be coachable. Coachable doesn't mean weak. I don't know if you're a soccer fan, but Messi or Ronaldo, they have coaches, but they're absolutely wonderful. They're great. They can make a decision on the spot, and you can bet on that how they shoot, where they come from, who they dribble, but they still have a coach. So coachability doesn't mean weakness of the CEO. It means the openness to discuss, explore new directions, the openness to use the experience of the people who have trusted me. I'm very coachable, but then you see in actions that they're not. We look for people, I look for people. I shouldn't say we because it's generalizing. I look for people who don't have what I call founderitis. Now, what is founderitis? It's art, I call it, it's like arteritis of the founders. They have a chronic problem of having fallen in love with their own idea. This is the greatest thing. People don't like it, they're stupid. Yeah. We'll get if they don't like it, they're stupid. Well, they're not stupid. They're the ones writing the check. In fact, we think we have a sales department and we sell to people. That is a false narrative. We don't make money. People give us money. People make a decision that they like what value you're giving them. They make the decision and they write you a check or give you a credit card or to give you cash, be it for $1 or for $1 million. They make that decision. We as a company do not have a control over that decision. We do have control over delivering the value and being relevant to that person. So they would make that decision. The same thing, by the way, goes for employees. We think we give somebody a job and we give them $57,000 or $157,000 and we give them job description. And we expect this KPIs or this level of productivity and we expect them to be innovative and creative. But guess what? Who decides at 5 o'clock in the afternoon if they want to give you productivity or not? They do. At 10 o'clock at night, are they sleeping and looking at stuff and thinking about their golf game, or are they thinking about being creative the next morning? They do. They decide if 157 is the right number, or they take it because rent is due. They decide if they're going to give you 100%, 80%, 50%, or 40%. They make that decision based on their own reasonings. Some because they feel that they're contributing. Some feel because their creativity makes a difference. Some because they fall in love with the cause that you're following. Some because the rent is due and they don't want to lose the job. But they make the decision. The same thing goes for partners whoever is your partner, supply chain partner. The same thing goes for the society that you are a part of, not because you're being philanthropic, but your people live in that community. If there's crime, if rent is too expensive, if things are dirty, then they don't want to be in that community. So that is a part of your exchange with that community, right? But we're talking about investors. So the fifth pillar. So I talked about customers, employees, partners, and the society. The fifth pillar is an investor. The investor does not necessarily invest in you for return. That's a false narrative. Yes, they do have an agenda. Why? Because if it's an individual, they have hard earned money. They didn't pick this up on the street. They do want something, but they also want to enjoy the ride. They don't want to invest in you and then every day be afraid that you're crooked, you're not trustworthy. They don't want to spend time with you if there's no chemistry. They don't want to worry at 4 o'clock in the morning because if they wanted to do that, they would start their own business. They want to be able to trust you that at 4 o'clock in the morning, when all those problems hit you, you're going to be there and you're going to shine and you can maneuver through it. And if anything goes wrong, you're going to call them and say, "Hey, Sid, what do you think? Let's strategize." So they want to be able to trust. They want to be able to participate and contribute to your success because that's the enjoyment. But most entrepreneurs think that investors want to make money and therefore here's an opportunity here, go make money. Yes, that is part of the agenda,
Yeah.
but that is not the only thing. It's called a bundle of satisfaction. Customers have a bundle of satisfaction. They go to Starbucks not just because they get a cup of coffee, but because they get it exactly the same way they're getting it every day. Because they like the environment, because they can sit there with their laptops and do things. They buy an Apple iPhone because they want to be a community because their friends have it, because they like the way it operates, right? They buy a Ferrari, red Ferrari, because it's their midlife crisis and they want to pick up girls. And they buy maybe a van because they have kids and they want to take them to a soccer mom, party. People do things because of a collection of things. That's their bundle of satisfaction. So investors are the same. They're people. And guess what? I mentioned all these people. They are the five pillars of an organization. And guess what? They're all entrepreneurs. They want to exchange what they have with something better. The employee wants to do that, wants to come to you and work there. And yes, some of it is money, some of it is security, some of it is excitement, some of it is your kindness, some of it is the creativity, some of it is a name on a resume for their future. They come to you for a reason to exchange. Investors are the same. Your partners are the same. Your customers are the same. We're all entrepreneurs trying to exchange and get something better, knowing that there is a risk. A customer buys your product. If it's an Apple, it has a little less risk of failure. If it's a off the street phone from a third party, there's higher risk of failure. If I buy some food from a vendor on the street, it's just tasty. It may be cheaper, but I risk getting sick. But if I go to one of these major things, it's not as tasty. It's got so much contamination of external things in it. But hey, the risk of getting sick is less. And if I get sick, hey, I'm going to go sue the guy. So everything we do has a risk in it. And everything we do is an entrepreneurial act because we're born this way.
Makes so much sense. Thank you for that. So, Sid, I'm going to harp on this donkey for long. So we talk about the investors not being focused on profit margin. It is quite refreshing to have a more relaxed conversation with an investor and understand investor mindset. But the reason why most founders get stuck on the idea of the returns is that whenever you're pitching, TAM, SAM, and SUM comes up a lot. Projection in the next year, 2 years, 5 years comes up a lot. Competitors, competitive analysis comes up a lot.
Absolutely.
So all of these things, when back of the napkin conversation with the figures, right? So these are conversations that are hammered into founders, or founders find themselves having consistently. For founders that are able to participate in incubators of sort, these are the conversations that are had very frequently. So For the founders that are listening to us, this is the other perspective, and hold it down a little bit.
So let me get into all of that because you opened up a multi-dimensional factor. So
I did.
I'm going to go back and talk about the TAM and SAM and the
Right.
projections and all of that. I'm going to cover everything that you said. But
Right.
let me begin by saying when you want to buy a car, do you ask if the car works? What's the mileage? Who built this car? What's the service requirement?
Mm-hmm.
You ask all those questions.
Right.
But you buy a Toyota not because the car works. The car must work. Okay. So there is a diligence in making sure that if I'm buying a car, the car works. Now, then there is the other dimensions, the bundle of satisfaction that really drives me to buy this car over that car because my anticipation is I buy a car that can take me from point A to point B, that I don't have to be at the service department every other day, that it's not a gas guzzler. I don't have to put in $37 worth of gas to it every other day. Right? Those that's table stake. That is, so the diligence is does the car work or does it have the potential, a real potential, a reduced risk of working? So those conversations around projections and a this and a that and a, do you have a patent? Do you have a this? Those are all diligence to see if the car works. If this is a viable business, does it have the right elements to it? And guess what? We all know that every spreadsheet lies. Excel is a liar. Spreadsheets lie. You could change this number at midnight and it looks this way and the hockey stick. We know that. But it's how you think that matters. It's how you put the puzzle together. What they're really looking for is have you thought about all these elements? Do you know who the competitor is? Do you know what is relevant to customers? Have you talked to enough of them? Do you know what the pain is? The fact that I love to make a lot of money and this is a great thing doesn't necessarily make you a good entrepreneur or
Right.
this is a good business. So there is a diligence. The key is not if you have a business plan. Everybody has a plan before they get punched in the face. I guess I don't remember who said that, one of these big boxers. And Winston Churchill says,
Yeah.
the plan is not important. To plan is important because plans can change. What they're looking for at the back of their mind is A, have you planned? And B, do you have the moxie, the resilience, the intelligence to change that plan? Okay, so that's what they're testing. That's when they ask, "What's your projection?" They want to see, did you really look at all of this? Did you look at this? Did you talk to customers? Is this relevant? Have you tested it? Does it work? Why would it work? Where is the plot? So, for example, you say, we've done an MVP and we've done this, the most, the minimum viable product. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs make a difference, make a big mistake. They think viable is for them, not for the customer. I don't care you didn't have enough money to do this. It wasn't viable for us because we didn't have enough money to build all of these bells and whistles. So here's the product working. I don't care if the product is working. I care if it's viable for the buyer. That's what you want. That's the minimum viable. And it is viable when they reach into their pocket and they exchange with you. They say, yes, this minimum value has something that I will exchange with you. So that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for a whiz bang product that you push here, you push here. You could do that. Guess what? Now ChatGPT can write the code and do all this stuff. But ChatGPT can't be at 4 o'clock in the morning, take all of those factors into play and make a decision and be imaginative and innovative and creative while understanding that plans have to change. Now, let's talk about one more thing because I said you said so many things I've got to get into it. I am not a believer of this Tam Sam thing. Some people are. It doesn't matter. I hate it when people say if I get 1% of this market, we're gonna make $1 trillion. I don't want you. First of all, I don't want you to take 1%. I want you to take 100%. But what I care about is how do you get how many physically, how many people are you gonna get, and how are you gonna get them? If I get this, it would be wonderful. It's a dream. It's not a plan. It's not a. It's not. Look at this. If I get only 1% of the market, you, Mr. Investor, are going to make $157 million. An investor is not an idiot. Professional investor, I'm talking about. Your mom, your cousins, they don't care really about valuation. They just love you. That's why they give you the money. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs make the big mistake of going to their folks and saying, this is a $10 million, $20 million valuation, give me a check. And they'll give you a check. And then they think that company that is worth $20 million. And then they go to the market and they tell an investor, hey, this is $20 million. And then the investor wouldn't say, hey, what are you smoking? This is not, because they don't want to upset you.
Yeah.
So they don't tell you and they pass because they say, this person is not reasonable. They don't understand. They've got these people that they've invested. And if they go back to them and say, hey, you know, that 100,000 that you gave me is now worth 1/5 of what you told me. Oh, imagine that Thanksgiving dinner. So we, as entrepreneurs, create problems for ourselves by being unrealistic, unaware of challenges of taking a business, taking it to the next side. We think that because I have an idea, I can exchange it with whatever I dream of without understanding or being aware of the risks involved, of the realities involved, and how do I get there. What they're saying to you when they're evaluating and talking to you is they're minimizing the risk by understanding that what you have and what you think you can exchange it with are reasonable, achievable, doable. And you, as the entrepreneur, are the person who can connect this to this.
Thank you. That was a masterclass on fundology. So let's go back to this foundritis issue. I should put that on a t-shirt. Foundritis, you make good feelings, Sid. Foundritis, unfortunately, I think in just being in certain clusters, I've been able to observe certain things from the investor and the founder side. I personally, and you can, disagree and, challenge me on this. I don't believe every investor is for every founder. I've been in rooms where investors who do not quite understand or have a lived experience of what a product is or what a company is working on or has an MVP for disseminate the idea because they don't have a personal experience. And it can actually make that founder who believes and has the lived experience, whether career or personal, of this problem that they're working to solve. It can present that founder as somebody with founderitis. So what is your feedback to founders listening to us who either participate in pitching competition or pitch competitions, or who participates in something like kind of a setup, like almost like a Shark Tank setup or Elevator Joe? What can we tell founders about pitching and finding the right investors to pitch to?
Sure.
Because not every investor is for every company.
Yeah. So that statement is absolutely true. There are multiple things. Again, you bring a few things up. First of all, there are different stages of investment, and there are different investors that are good for those stages. I am an early stage guy, meaning I am best to help you get from zero up there. I am not good when you are a public company or you have $500 million of revenue ARR a year. You're looking for connections then. You're looking for somebody to pick up the phone and call somebody, or you're looking for a lot of money for not much dilution. First of all, the stages are different. Second, the earlier you are, the more important it is to find somebody who has started a business and gotten it to somewhere. If they've done more than one, that much is better. Okay? Hands on. That means they actually were responsible for the P&L, not in a big company, in a small company. Again, they feel the pain of you not being able to meet the payroll. That's important. That the product may not work, that software has a bug, that all of those realities. So the earlier you are, the more important it is that your investors would have that experience. If they know something about the industry, that's better because then they know people, they know the challenges, they know the mindsets and all that sort of stuff. If all of that is met, then still not all investors are created the same. Then there is chemistry. See, so far, I'm not saying the size of the check. That's not the issue. Then there's chemistry. Can you talk to this person? Do you trust this person? Do they trust you? Are they an asshole? Are they full of themselves? Do
Yes.
they have an ego? Because guess what? You are going on a journey with ups and downs of lots of issues, and you want somebody by your side that's got your back but is firm. Your uncle may be very loving, but they don't have anything objective to add to this scenario. You want somebody who tells you the truth, doesn't sugarcoat it, tells you the truth and says, "But I'm here. Let's figure it out." That respects your intelligence but doesn't yield to it. So there has to be chemistry in that sense. And then let's say you have a technology company. I come in and I'll give you $1 million for a $10 million valuation. And then you have Bill Gates come in and he gives you $1 million for $5 million valuation, half of what I'm giving. Which investor is better for you?
Investor that I have a more close chemistry with. It doesn't matter what the evaluation is the workability. The relationship is the
So
yeah,
yeah, workability is the key. But imagine you can make an announcement that Bill Gates made an investment in me. That could take you a long way. Let's imagine that's
it
Elon
does.
Musk and he makes a tweet. What I'm saying is there is a balance between all this stuff. Not all
Yeah,
investors are created the same. Not all situations are created the same, where your
right.
company is and so forth. So you're absolutely correct that you have to find the right investor. Now, first of all, something like a Shark Tank is not real.
Yeah,
Investments don't happen in that form. There
right.
is lots of diligence. You've been through the process. I came in with a cheese hat and whatever. That's entertainment.
It is.
And nobody, I'm not saying as smart as Mark Cuban, even half as smart, even a quarter of smart, even a 1/10 of smart, is going to make a $1 million investment in somebody with a cheese hat on without some realistic backing. Okay, so nobody's going to do that. So
Right.
there is backgrounds, they've seen the numbers, they've seen the plans, they've seen that they don't acknowledge it, but they have. Let's go into a pitching session. You should pitch your authentic self with your authentic relevance, with your authentic value proposition, because then you will find an authentic investor. Try to bamboozle the audience with some BS numbers, some hockey sticks here. Guess who would you attract? You attract the people. No, you may attract people who are not even interested in your deal. They're interested in what you said, not who you are. If I have on the window of my restaurant steak and potato, and you like steak and potatoes, and you come into my restaurant and I give you tofu and vegetables, would you be happy? But if I see tofu and vegetables, and I like tofu and vegetables, and when I come in, you give me a wonderful dish, would I be happy then? Be authentic, and you'll get the right
Yeah.
investor.
Thank you for validating that because it's something that I had to learn. It was a quick lesson for me, and I'm glad that I was able to learn that lesson very early on before exhausting myself pitching to people. So the example I'm going to tell you where this is coming from. I am in healthcare. My technology is in language translation. There is nothing right now in healthcare that is specific on time for frontline providers. We're still dependent on ad hoc human translation that has led to a lot of mortality and also medical malpractice. So as somebody that speaks three languages and English is my fourth, I understand the importance of understanding the immigrant experience. I see the disparity that goes with not understanding what your doctor just said to you. I see the health compromise that comes with that, even fatalities. And hospitals are paying upwards of $10 million to $80 million and above in malpractice that is connected to language inequities. So when I am in a room with people who understand the immigrant experience or people with elderly parents who have caregivers who are also immigrants providing this care and communication being an issue, if the conversation is, wow, oh my goodness, I have been looking for something like this. However, when I'm in a room of people who English is their first language, they do not understand the pain point that comes with communicating and understanding a communication, then I feel like I'm selling. And I shouldn't be selling. It is something that it is needed, something that I have a proof of concept. I don't want to sound salesy. I have a relationship with providers who have been awed and excited about the product itself, the software itself. It is something that I've committed a lot of mind time into and continue and will continue to do that. And I find that founders in my shoes get frustrated when they find themselves in a room of investors that do not understand their industry or have the lived experience of their industry. And when they defend their product, they come off as that founderitis is, in full bloom. However, that is not the case.
My advice is don't get into those rooms. See,
Yes.
the thing is that a lot of entrepreneurs think if I had the money, everything would be solved. I have all the answers.
Mm.
So you go into any room looking for any idiot who has some money. Don't get into that room. If you don't think get in the room where they understand you. Do your research, do your sales, again, would you go into a restaurant that sells vegetables and tofu and ask for steak? No, they wouldn't understand it. They don't like it.
Right.
Don't get into that room. You look desperate when you get into that room. Then then you say, I am salesy. Then you say, I'm salesy. And you don't feel good when you're salesy.
Yes.
And they push back on you because they don't believe in what you have, because they believe you have to eat meat and you don't. And they say, well, who's this idiot who doesn't eat meat? Because they like meat.
Right.
Okay. So again, the idea of I'm going to go pitch anywhere. Now, it is good if you're doing a practice to see what the pushbacks are,
Absolutely.
but you're getting into that room not to get investments because you don't want them as an investor, but you want to understand the pushbacks because the people who pat on your back and say, I love you, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, they're not teaching you anything. We teach from our weaknesses, not from our strengths. This is a fallacy. People say, focus on your strength. Then what am I learning? Nothing. Okay, I'm great. So super, wonderful. Okay, but I fail because of those weakest links. That's where I fail. I don't fail because of my strength. I fail because of my weaknesses. Let's understand what is a weakness. Now, if you approach it from that perspective, from a learning perspective, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you go into a steakhouse and looking for tofu, you ain't gonna get it. Okay?
Sure.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. It's such great conversation that is much needed. Because the founding journey can be very daunting and lonely. So when you find an investor with a heart, and one last thing as we wrap up, Sid, when it comes to investment, something common where I found this in some incubators and, just some recommendation where people are told to be VC backable when their product is really of social impact as opposed to a VC fund, because VCs are very different from angels. Should every founder focus on being fundable by all sources, or should they hone in on investors that they know will benefit their journey in the long run?
Again, this is one of those things that's one-liner stuff, be VC backable. No, the first thing you have to do, focus on delivering value. If you have cure for cancer and it cures cancer, people would sell their home to give you those, and there will be people who would invest in you because of that. You're not designing a business to be VC backable or angel backable or God backable or peasant backable. You're building a business to deliver value.
Correct.
If you've got something that delivers value, all of these people who were naysayers, all of those VCs are going to run after you like there is no tomorrow. Okay? This notion, see this thing that I'm saying is we try to follow a how-to package and fit ourselves into this. And this is a problem with our education. This is a problem with our approach. I'm going to give you practical advice. Who says you're practical? I mean, I'm not you. What is practical? What does that mean? So it's a lot of idiotic, stupid things that we hear. BVC backable is one of them.
Yeah.
Focus on one thing and one thing only. Creating value. You create value, you have a good business, and it will fly. And you will get the right investors, and you will get the right valuation. Then who needs to give 20, 30, 40% to a VC? Well, why do you want some guy like me to come in and tell you do this and do that? And give me this report. Oh, you don't need it.
Right.
If you don't need it, don't get it.
Right.
Don't design a system that is hungry for somebody to come in and tell you what to do. Design a system that delivers value, and then all would fall in place. Now, I've got a couple more minutes, but I wanted to, since you are entrepreneurial focused, I want to talk about a minute about Anabase's Academy,
Okay.
which is it's a very non-academic academy. There are no tests, there are no certificates, and our objective is to connect mindfulness or activating mindfulness and awareness to entrepreneurship and life. We do this through something. We have a wake up call. Everybody can join. They can go to anabasesacademy.org. They can go there. They can go back and watch all the old stuff. They can also become a member, and there's lots of ideas about this idea of exchange, this idea of what makes entrepreneurs shine is their mindfulness and awareness and ability to see fear the way it is, to see commitment the way it is, to see we are all unique, and that authenticity comes from our ability to see the different perspectives and put the puzzle together in our own way, our unique way. And that's what we're focused at the Academy at, because that's what I believe. I
Yeah.
believe people are able, we're all entrepreneurs, we're all able to build great things, do great things. We have to find our authentic self. And that comes from awareness of not just our emotions, not just of here's the product, but of relevance, of our tolerances, of the reality around us, and all of that. Because as we plan, as we look for prosperity, those are the things that drives our decisions, and it's those decisions that lead to impact.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sid.
Okay,
Going
it
to
has been a pleasure.
we're going to make the link to the Academy available in the show notes. So click in, please, please, please. If you're a founder, you're struggling, you need a community. It sounds like an impressive community. I'm going to take advantage as well. Sid.
We have people who pay it forward so they can be sponsored for the first 3 months. So there's a click and say sponsor me, and that would happen.
I'm gonna need a sponsor. All right.
Okay.
Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Sid, for being here. I'm very grateful you made time for this conversation. You have yourself a beautiful day. Thank you, everybody. Take care of yourself. Let us know what you think about this conversation. And if you want more, I can drag Sid over here too. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Unshelling Medicine Podcast. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Altruistic Scribe on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We share additional tips, updates, and health-related content that you won't want to miss. Have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes? Reach out to us at altruisticscribeco.com. We're always eager to hear from our listeners and tackle the health topics that matter most to you. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.